One of the ways David proved most helpful was bringing us to places we never would have found on our own. One such place was the tiny village of Xinping, where David promised to take us to what he thought was one of the most beautiful parts of Guangxi province, an area so remote it could only be seen by a journey downriver on a bamboo raft. With a pitch like that, how could we refuse? Unlike Yangshuo, Xinping was not a regular stop on the traveler's itinerary. Here was a place that few Westerners ever bothered to find, and it was hard to imagine you could get any deeper back than this. As we wandered around town, we felt a tinge of excitement, like we'd been let in on a little secret. Xinping seemed like our discovery, a piece of small-town China that even our guidebook hadn't heard of. It was market day and the streets were alive, with people buying and selling, everything from watermelon to wicker. Even the pigs seemed to know what this day was about. As we watched this bustling of free market activity, we had to remind ourselves that we were in the heart of the world's largest communist nation. It seemed wherever we went in China, we drew crowds of curious onlookers, eager to get a look at those strange foreigners. To them, we couldn't have been more out of place had we dropped in from Mars. One guy with hair on his face, another over 5'9". I don't think dragging around the entire Chicago Bears football team could have caused a bigger stir. Of course, when it came to cultural exchange, nothing broke the ice quite like a Polaroid. Most countries fascinate with their culture. Food, dress, rituals, music. Americans fascinate with their gadgets. Strip us of our cameras, VCRs, CDs, and snappy cars, and we probably seem pretty bland in comparison. Before making our way to the river, our stomachs told us it was time for lunch. Good food was never hard to find in China. It was always made to order, and it was always fresh. Very fresh. It didn't take long to go from chicken underfoot to chicken in the wok. And when you order chicken in China, you'll probably get the whole bird. That doesn't mean you'll overdose on chicken, because these birds, unlike their Western counterparts, didn't spend their short lives fattening up on a lot of hormone-laden feed pellets. No, these birds were as tough and tawny as the Chinese. The word plump would never accidentally be applied to them. More important than their size, though, was the degree of freshness. Your meal could have literally, just minutes earlier, been running around clucking underneath your seat, perhaps trying to steer you toward one of the vegetarian entrees. The Li River was the hub of mass transit in Xinping. Boats lined the banks, ferrying people across and down. Our bags seemed light in comparison, but like the locals, we heaved them over our shoulders, climbed aboard, and settled in for the short journey across. A small community of fishing boats lined the banks on this side of the river. We could see that people were living in these boats and using the river as their backyard. It appeared that fishing was the main business around here, though it definitely had a twist. Instead of rod, reel, or net, the Chinese had developed an ingenious, if not a rather bizarre method of using cormorants to fish. These birds were naturals at fishing and had large capacity bills for the task. By tying a string around the bird's neck so that it couldn't swallow any of its catch, the Chinese would keep the fish, and the cormorants would keep on fishing. Worked great for the Chinese, but didn't seem like much of a deal for the cormorants. Traveling down this quiet, lonely river had an irresistible appeal. Our craft was nothing more than bamboo lashed together, the kind of craft that had plied these waters for centuries. As we floated through this strange and beautiful place, the problems of modern China seemed to belong to some other country. It was hard to believe that such a place could exist in the world's most populous nation. The frenetic pace of the modern world had no relevance here, and to us, that seemed just fine. After all, life in the modern world had its price. We had stress, high cholesterol, and monthly payments. They had isolation, little material wealth, and not much knowledge of the outside world. For the moment, we had to wonder, who had the better deal?
Coming up, we venture up Moon Hill in search of a greater purpose, to discover the legend of Moon Hill's crying lady.